I'm Elmer Young, and I'm a DUI lawyer here in the state of Georgia. I often get asked a question about, yeah, well, what is this grams per 210 liters of breath that I hear about? If you sort of have to go back to some of your college studies or high school studies where you, maybe in chemistry or physics or something, you dealt with some small uh, measures like grams and kilograms and liters and had to make all those conversions that you had to go through. Well, we're dealing with some of those things when we're talking about grams and the definition of alcohol concentration as defined by the Georgia Code. And in order to understand that, you need to look at that definition. And I have this printed up. I hope that you can see this. And it talks about millimeters of blood and grams of breath. Okay, and so you're talking about here grams of alcohol per 210 liters of breath, and since certainly 95% or more of all of the breath testing or alcohol testing that gets done in Georgia is done with the CMI's intoxilizer is done by CMI's Intoxilizer 5000 machine. So what would be the legal limit that we have to deal with? Well, in Georgia, it depends on whether or not you're a minor or whether or not you're a CDL or an adult. But just generally speaking, in terms of an adult, you're talking about a legal limit then of 0.08 grams. 0.08 grams. That's not quite 1/10 of a gram. And so I've tried to outline that for you here on this piece of paper. And in doing so, I'm showing you what approximately 1/10 of a gram of anything would represent in terms of its volume or its mass. And it's so tiny you probably can't see it. So I've given you just a bit of a clue by including on the sheet of paper a regular office paper clip. So it's a very, very tiny measurement. Now remember, they're looking for this amount in a mass or a volume of 210 liters. Well, how much is 210 liters? We don't tend to think about it a whole lot, but probably the most common measurement that we would typically deal or see in our daily lives would be a 2-liter bottle of some beverage. And that 2-liter bottle then represents, or one half of the number that we would need to be dealing with. So it would take 105 2-liter bottles of empty, and let's say empty them with air, in order to make up the 210 liters of breath. So, well, how big is that? And it's often used to simply, again, because it's something we have more familiarity with, and that's a 55-gallon drum. It's not quite 55 gallons, but almost a 55-gallon drum that we would be talking about there. So you're talking about looking for a little teeny tiny mass within a large volume of breath or air. Well, that's great for definition purposes, but how many volumes or how many liters of air does an average human being walk around with? And in that case, very few of us have more than 3. Maybe really big guys might have 4 liters of air that are in their lungs at any one time. So we're a long way from 210 liters. And so when they give a blow into this tube, certainly less than 210 liters goes in there. And certainly in the small container where it's measured, there's certainly a lot less than that, less than 100 milliliters of breath goes into that tube. And so now we're talking about another mathematical terms. And I don't know why I ever got involved with this, because I mean, I was an English major, and I measured in that because I didn't want to have to deal with math. And here I find myself, you know, dealing with math every day in my life. So, but we're talking about a ratio now. So if the usual measure is 210 liters, and you're going to drop that down to say 2 or 3 liters, and in fact the machine needs 1.1 liter of air to have an adequate sample, then if you change the one side of the ratio, you have to change the other. Mathematically, you're beginning to get into the millionths of a gram in terms of its mass. And so how accurate does a machine have to be in order to accurately measure that? And that's what's been under attack by defense lawyers for so long, because we know that the machine is not that accurate.